You've achieved the goals that you've set for yourself, checked all the boxes that society says leads to a happy and successful life. Your life looks great on paper and maybe even on Instagram, but despite all of those outward accomplishments, and despite having many parts of your life that you absolutely love, there's something inside of you that doesn't feel fulfilled. Something that's wondering, is this all there is? If you've ever felt that disconnect of being outwardly successful but not feeling fulfilled, you are not alone. Today, I'm going to be talking about this surprisingly common occurrence of being successful but also feeling unhappy. I'm going to be talking about why this happens, how it's perfectly normal, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Hi, I'm Scarlett Cochran, and this is One Big Happy Life, where we help you create the life you want. Today, I'm talking about how it's possible that you could have done all of the quote unquote right things in life, but still find yourself in a place where you're not feeling happy and fulfilled in your life, why it happens, and what we can do about it. Now, if this topic resonates with you and you find yourself wanting to explore this further, I've created something special just for you. It's called the Your Next Chapter Workshop, and it's designed to help you discover what truly makes you happy so that you can create an exciting vision for your life going forward. In this workshop, we're going to go beyond just talking about concepts. We'll work together to discover what a truly fulfilling and rich life looks like for you. To learn more and sign up, head on over to onebighappylife.com/next. And I'll also drop the link down in the description box. We're taught that success leads to happiness, but for many people, that's just not true. Whether you're experiencing this yourself, or maybe you've seen a loved one or a colleague experience this, the disconnect between achievement and fulfillment is real. And it's affecting more people than you might think. I've even experienced this myself from time to time, most recently when I published my first book. It was a huge accomplishment. It was something that I had worked towards and had dreamed of the majority of my life. And when I first got the book deal, I felt that excitement and the euphoria of the goal accomplishment. But then afterwards, I found that feeling went away. And I thought that I was going to feel more afterwards. I thought that in doing that thing, in accomplishing that goal, I would feel differently, but I actually didn't. And so I found myself in that space where I had accomplished this major life milestone, this very successful, but like outwardly successful accomplishment, and realized that it didn't make me feel any more fulfilled as a person. And it's important that we normalize that this happens and acknowledge that it's actually pretty common, because understanding this and being aware of it is one of the keys to actually creating a life that truly is fulfilling and meaningful to us versus continuing to chase markers of success that leave us feeling unfulfilled. Because the truth is that success doesn't automatically equal a happy life. In fact, research shows us that it's the opposite, that happiness and happier people are actually more successful people. So success is more likely to come as a result of you pursuing happiness than happiness is to result from you pursuing success. So right up front, we know that the answer to that nagging question that can come up when we realize that we're not happy despite the fact that we are successful, which is, I am successful. I have all of these wonderful things in my life. Shouldn't I feel happy? And the answer is no, not necessarily, because just being successful, especially these outward markings of success, is not enough to create a happy life. And when we recognize and acknowledge that, that allows us to release the self-judgment and the guilt and negative emotions that we might have towards ourselves, because we do have this feeling of not being satisfied with the life that we have. And once we release those feelings, we can allow ourselves to then start to explore where the dissatisfaction is coming from, why it's happening. And then when we do that, once we realize it, then we get ideas for, okay, what exactly isn't working and how can I fix it? So what I'm talking about here is self-awareness. So understanding yourself, understanding how you are feeling and why you're feeling that way. When we are self aware, it's better for our mental health. We make better decisions and we have overall increased life satisfaction. So, this understanding piece is so important when it comes to deciding what we want to do with our lives and making decisions about our lives going forward. Think about it. How can you fix something if you don't acknowledge and recognize that there is a problem that deserves your attention and deserves to be fixed? Because it's very easy to talk yourself into following the same path. Because again, you're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to feel good about where you are in your career and the work that you're doing because you've worked so hard for it, because you've paid so much for it. You're supposed to love the city you're in, the house you're in, because of all of the transaction costs and all of the decisions that it took to get to that moment. Except, what if you're not? Because you're actually not. You can make the decision that this isn't what you want, that you can tell it's not what you want, and you want to do something different. And that's what comes when we're aware of the fact that we're not happy and that something needs to change. Self awareness also helps us feel more in control of our lives. So we feel like we're living our lives versus having life happen to us. So we have choice and we have agency about what we're doing, and we have choice over where the direction of our lives are headed. And we're not just locked into the decisions that we've made in the past, which again, this self efficacy, this autonomy is also an important part of us feeling fulfilled and as like that we are living lives that are true to ourselves. It also helps us prevent future regrets. So the decisions that we haven't yet made, once we have awareness of what's not working, we can start to course correct versus continuing to go down a path that we know is not right, which will then just lead to more and more life regrets. And so instead of just continuing to make decisions that lead us down that wrong path, we can set new metrics for what a happy life looks like for us based on what we want right now. So now that we've talked about why it's so important to understand where this disconnect is coming from, this feeling of being outwardly successful, doing all the right things, checking all the boxes, but still something feels off. Something doesn't quite feel right. You're not feeling fulfilled. You're not feeling happy. You're not feeling excited about your life. Even though there are some areas of your life that you absolutely love, there are other areas where you're not feeling that same level of excitement and connection. So now that we know why understanding that why this phenomenon happens is important, let's talk about the details. So why does this happen and what can we do about it? Now, I'm going to be sharing a number of potential causes for this disconnect between success and happiness. And I want you to listen to them and try to see if any of them apply to your specific situation. And if they don't, ask yourself what it might be, because that is important, right? We want that self-awareness piece. So generally, these reasons why fall into two main categories. The first is that it never worked for you, but you did it anyway, and now you're getting to the point where you don't want to or can't do it anymore. Or two, it was working for you before, and now it's not working for you anymore. So let's dive deeper into each of those. So first, let's talk about potential reasons that would fall under the it worked for you before, but it's not working for you anymore category. The first is that your goals and your values have changed over time. So you might be on a path that you set yourself on 10 or 20 or more years ago when you were a lot younger, you didn't know as much about the world, and you were just a different person then than you are now. And so, of course, over time, as you've grown and changed, it's entirely possible that your values and what really fulfills you as a person will have changed over time, but you're still on the same path that was set by a previous version of you that had different ideas for what they wanted their life to look like. but you're different now. In other words, you may have outgrown the vision of who you thought you were going to be. So, once upon a time, when I was applying to law school, I thought that I was going to, my career would be that of a Supreme Court justice. That is who I was going to become. And then I got into law school, actually, and I realized what it took to become a judge. And I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Once I It was one thing to have this dream and this idealized vision of what it was going to look like. But then when I actually looked at what the career would look like and what it would take, I really did not want to do it anymore. And so maybe you've had a similar experience where you had this idealized vision of what you wanted for your life. And then you went down the path and now you want something different, and that is okay. Another potential reason is that you've accomplished what you've wanted to accomplish and you're not really interested in continuing to go down that path. So maybe the career that you chose initially, you spent 10 years, 5 years, 15 years in that career. You climbed the corporate ladder, you did all the things you wanted to do, and you're done and you're allowed to be done. It's okay for you to decide, hey, I've done all I wanted to do here. I've climbed to the height that I've wanted to climb in this direction. And now I really want to do something else with my life. It's okay for you to make that decision. Another potential reason is that success hasn't brought you the feelings, the results that you thought it would. You thought you would feel one way, and it turns out you feel a different way. So I mentioned that I had that experience when I published my book. I thought I would feel one way after doing it, and I didn't end up feeling that way. It was very anticlimactic. And don't get me wrong, it's still an accomplishment that I'm proud of. You can definitely still feel pride in the accomplishments, in the things that you've accomplished, while also making the decision that you don't want to continue to do that again, or you don't need to repeat that again. Or now that you've experienced this thing, you've realized that, hey, actually, this is the new direction that you want to head in. Because the reality is that the anticipation of achieving is often way more exciting than actually achieving the thing, and certainly more exciting than the aftermath of achieving the thing. Because before we achieve it, we have so much to look forward to. And then in the moment of actually achieving it, yes, everything kind of comes to a crescendo and it feels wonderful. But then afterwards, we go back to our baseline level of happiness. This is known as the hedonic treadmill. And so with that might also come the realization that part of what was driving you to succeed was the feeling of accomplishing the thing, as opposed to going after the thing as a fulfilling means in and of itself. And so then you might just make the decision, I want to do or try something different, which is not the same thing as just chasing more and more and more accomplishment, but really making the decision that you want to be more purposeful and intentional in what you want to try to work towards in the future. Something that is meaningful and fulfilling to you because you want to do it, and not necessarily because of the effects that achieving it will create in your life, which is an important distinction when it comes to cultivating our own happiness. The last reason I'll share that falls into this category of what worked for you before isn't working for you anymore is that the world around you might have changed. Now, this happened to many medical professionals during the pandemic, where because of what they experienced during the pandemic, they burned out and they did not want to go back to medicine. So the world may have changed around you, and the job that you were initially doing, or whichever area of your life we're talking about here, that's the source of the dissatisfaction, the world changed around you and it made those circumstances different and no longer fulfilling for you. And those are things that can be outside of our control, but it becomes our new normal. It becomes the reality of the world that we're in. And so that might cause feelings of dissatisfaction and unhappiness when the world pivots in a way that shifts the way we're able to show up in our lives, the way our jobs affect us. Now let's hop into the it never worked for you anyway, but you did it category. Now, the first reason that falls under that is external pressures to follow a particular path, whether it's from, your community around you, messages from society, pressures from your parents to follow a particular career path, pressures from a partner, or the demands of your family to continue down a career path. For many of us, there's only so much of like doing it because other people want us to or need us to that we can stand before it starts to become incredibly stifling for us. And here's the thing, I'm not going to say that those pressures are not real. I mean, I'm a mom. I have raised and am raising children. And so I've done a lot of things to make sure that my family was stable, but also because I value that, because I value my family and my relationships, but never at the expense of my personal health and my personal desires. I've always tried to find that balance. Even if I had to take a certain job temporarily, I would be looking for a new opportunity that was going to fit me better in the meantime. So it's entirely possible for us to meet those obligations that matter to us without having to compromise ourselves in the process. But so often we also bow to pressures beyond that, pressures that are not our responsibility. I'm talking about like parental pressure from people at work, whether it's your bosses or your colleagues to show up in a certain way, to go for certain promotions because that's what everyone else does. And so that's what you're expected to do. Those things can wear us down over time and wear down our happiness and our own sense of fulfillment and autonomy because we're not showing up as the person we want to be. We're showing up as the person that other people tell us that we should be. It's not always just other people who are pressuring us. And that brings me to the second reason in this category, which is internal pressure that we put on ourselves to follow a particular path. I remember when I had my daughter, Alexis, I was a single teen mom and I had something to prove because so many people said that I was ruining my life by making the decision to have my daughter. And so in my mind, I set it up. I've got to prove everyone wrong. I've got to show them that they were wrong, that I am going to create an amazing life for myself and my daughter. And I did. And in many ways, that was a positive thing, that internal pressure that I put on myself. But then when I was deciding to make that transition from whether to be a lawyer versus being an entrepreneur and not practicing the law anymore, I struggled with the idea of letting go of my identity as the Yale law educated attorney, because that had been this almost, I don't know, cape like protection that I put on myself as proof that I wasn't who everyone said I was going to be. I wasn't a failure. I was actually successful. And look, I've got the shiny gold star of an Ivy League diploma and a desirable career to prove it. A big part of me for a while was very afraid of pursuing the passion that I felt towards entrepreneurship to the extent that it meant that I would have to let go of this vision of myself as the lawyer. And so that's what I mean by this internal pressure that we put on ourselves can keep us walking down a path that no longer serves us because we're not letting go of these old stories that we have about ourselves, about what's possible for us, about our worth, about whether or not we're too old to dream. All of these stories that we tell ourselves either help us grow and help us change and help us reach the fulfilling, happy lives that we want, or they keep us stagnant. Things like, I don't have time. I don't have money to invest in myself. There's no way that I can walk away from this career and start from scratch because I don't want to give up my financial stability. Those are all stories, internal pressures that we put on ourselves. where we stop ourselves from even exploring what is possible because we tell ourselves that it's not possible. And a third reason that falls under this "it never really worked for you, but you did it anyway" category is actually a combination of the first two, which is this feeling like you're not allowed to be yourself. Or if you were to try to be yourself and do the things that you truly feel called to do, that other people won't accept you. So maybe you achieved success using a persona that actually wasn't really you. You put on a facade so that you could accomplish the things that you've accomplished, and but now that's starting to feel uncomfortable for you. You don't want to have to do that anymore. Or maybe that was initially who you were, but you have changed. I remember when I first went to like a fancy, schwanky, big law firm. It's all suits, it's all formal. I have tattoos, and I felt like I had to cover them up in order to be respectable. And I really didn't like that. And that was one of the signs for me that maybe law firm life was not going to be right for me because I like my tattoos and I don't want to have to hide them just so that other people will think that I'm professional or smart or competent. Or lately, over the years, I've gotten quite an assortment of piercings in my ears, and I'm not done. I'm probably going to get at least two or three more. And this is who I am. This is what I love. And I would hate to have to not have piercings because I'm in a profession where, oh, we just don't do this. That's not allowed. And so whether it's because you've changed or it's because you are tired of the persona, this is entirely possible that that might be the source of where you're feeling that disconnect between the successful life that you're living, but how happy and fulfilled you feel on a day to day basis. Now, after hearing all of these very valid reasons why you might be successful but still feeling unhappy, there may still be a nagging voice at the back of your head like, well, so what? Suck it up. There are some things that you don't like, but at the end of the day, you still have a successful life. You've got, let's say, great family, friends, you've got the car, you've got the home. There's so many wonderful things. Isn't it wrong of you to feel unhappy? Like, shouldn't you be able to force yourself to feel good about these things? And I want to offer to you that you don't have to give up essential parts of yourself, your own personal happiness and fulfillment, to have all of those things. And the first step to having both happiness and fulfillment and all of those markers of success, all of the parts of your life that you absolutely love, is to acknowledge the parts that are not working for you. And remember, the number one regret of the dying is that they wish that they had lived a life more true to themselves. So very few people, if any, get to the end of their life and feel good that they made the decision to sacrifice their own happiness and who they wanted to be for the sake of external markers of success and acceptance from other people, right? Conforming to what other people decided that they felt you should be. It's also okay if what worked for you before isn't working for you anymore. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to want different things. Life is long, but it's also really short. It's too short to spend your life on things that you don't truly care about, doing work that you don't truly care about. And so this shift that you're feeling, this growing sense of, something's not quite right here, is actually a sign of you growing and changing, and a sign of you becoming or wanting to be more of who you were meant to be on this planet, which is a very human and common and relatable experience. Self-actualization, so that journey of becoming more and more ourselves, discovering who we are, becoming who we were meant to be. We're all on that quest in our own individual lives. So you are not the only one. So if you are feeling any of those feelings around the fact that you are successful but not happy, I want you to just take a big, deep breath in and just breathe it out, because you are not alone. You are in good company. And there are many people like myself that have found themselves in a place where they've accomplished a lot of things in life, but then decide that they want to do something different. So, where do you go from here? Well, like I said, life is long and it's meant to be explored. We are lucky to live in a time where there is so much opportunity. There's so much information out there to help us pivot and go in a new, more true to ourselves direction. There are so many ways to make money. There are so many career possibilities. There are so many ways to retrain so that you can start over without starting from scratch. But what you have to do is give yourself permission to start exploring the possibilities. I'm not saying that you need to jump straight into making the decision to completely pivot. It doesn't happen that quickly. It's okay for it to take time and for it to be an exploration. My journey from lawyer to entrepreneur took 3 years. It was 3 years of me feeling it out and figuring it out before I finally made the decision, one way or another, which way I was going to go. And so, but without those 3 years of exploration and action, not just thinking, but actively trying out different things in my life, I would not have been able to make that pivot in a way that was seamless, because I did it without taking a pay cut, without impacting my family in any negative way. And so I just want you to know that that is available to you. And I want you to take that very first next step in figuring out what it is that a fulfilling life could look like for you. What could the next chapter of your life look like? Join me inside of your next chapter. It's a live workshop. We're going to do this work together. You can find out more by heading over to onebighappylife.com/next. And down in the comments, please share. Have you ever felt this way? Do you know anyone that's felt this way? And which of these reasons were the primary driver in what was causing that disconnect for you between the success that you've had in your life and how happy and fulfilled you felt personally? All right, I'll see you next time.